The Voyager crew marched in tense silence, flanked by armored warriors, their weapons shimmering with an unnatural glow. The alien forest had felt strange. This place felt otherworldly. Ahead, the silver-haired woman, the apparent leader, walked with measured grace, her staff humming with faint energy. Marcus took note of her composed expression, but her fingers occasionally tightened around her weapon, a subtle sign of caution, if not distrust. Mike walked beside Marcus, his military instincts screaming at him. They were captives, not guests. He had led men into ambushes before, and this felt uncomfortably similar. Ryan muttered under his breath, "We crash land on an unknown planet, and the first thing we meet is magic-wielding warriors. What the hell kind of place is this?" Caitlin, ever the scientist, whispered back, "We don't know that it's magic. It could be some form of undiscovered energy." Kevin scoffed. "An undiscovered energy that defies every known law of physics? Please. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's magic." Marcus shot them all a sharp look. "Focus. We're alive, and that's what matters. Let's figure out how to stay that way." The path opened up, revealing a city unlike anything they had ever seen. Massive stone towers loomed ahead, their architecture a blend of medieval craftsmanship and something far more advanced. Roads were paved with smooth, polished stone, glowing mana lamps illuminating the city with a soft blue radiance. The air carried a mix of herbal scents, burning forge fires, and distant incense. The city was alive with activity. Merchants called out, their wares displayed in floating carts suspended by levitating runes. Blacksmiths worked with molten metal, infusing weapons with sigils that pulsed with an eerie glow. A group of mages trained in the open square, hurling energy at stone targets while instructors observed, and most notably, beastmen, elves, and humans walked side by side. The Voyager crew was gawked at, whispers spreading through the crowds. Foreigners, outsiders, strangers wearing strange attire. Mike exhaled slowly. This isn't just a medieval society, it's something else entirely. Ryan's gaze lingered on a floating obelisk, inscribed with runes that pulsed in a slow, rhythmic sequence. This place, it's more advanced than it looks. They passed through towering gates into a massive palace courtyard. At the end of a long, ornate hall, sitting upon a throne of polished silver and engraved sapphire, was King Alden Velmara. The king was a broad-shouldered man in his early 50s, his piercing emerald eyes radiating authority. His dark hair was streaked with gray, his sharp features hardened from years of ruling a kingdom filled with varied races and ambitious nobles. He wore royal robes infused with gold-threaded runes, and on his right hand rested a gauntlet that glowed faintly with inscribed enchantments. The silver-haired woman stepped forward and kneeled before him. "My king, we bring forth the ones who fell from the sky." A murmur rippled through the noble court. Some glared with suspicion, others whispered among themselves. The king studied the crew for a long moment before speaking. "You are not of this world." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Marcus took a steady breath and stepped forward, meeting the king's gaze without hesitation. "No, we are not. We come from a distant world. Our ship was caught in a spatial anomaly, and we crash-landed here." The court erupted in whispers. A noble, a tall elf with golden hair, stepped forward, his expression sharp. "Lies. Do you take us for fools? You claim to be travelers from beyond the stars, yet you look no different from us." Mike clenched his fists. "We didn't ask to be here, but that doesn't mean we're lying." The elf narrowed his gaze. "You speak boldly for a prisoner." The king raised a hand, silencing the room. The king raised a hand, silencing the room. "I do not sense deception in their words. If they are not of our world, then they are an enigma, and enigmas demand caution." He turned his piercing gaze back to Marcus. "Tell me, strangers, why should I not have you executed as spies?" Silence fell. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Kevin looked pale. Caitlin's jaw tightened. Marcus, however, stood tall. "Because we can offer you something greater than death." The king raised a brow. "And what is that?" Marcus gestured toward Ryan. "Show them." Ryan hesitated before pulling a small device from his belt, a handheld scanner. He pressed a button. A holographic star map flickered to life in midair. Gasps filled the court as a floating projection of space hovered before them. "This is your world," Ryan said, pointing to the bright dot in the galaxy projection. "And this is where we were supposed to go." He zoomed out. A different star system appeared, impossibly far. The nobles stared in stunned silence. The king, however, showed no surprise. If anything, he looked intrigued. Fascinating. He leaned forward. And what else can you offer? Kevin, regaining his composure, spoke. We can teach. We can share knowledge. If you give us time, we may even find a way to leave your world without interfering in your affairs. The golden-haired elf from before scoffed. And what if we refuse? Mike crossed his arms. Then you waste an opportunity that no other kingdom will have. A long silence stretched across the chamber. Then the king smiled. You are bold. I admire that. He rose from his throne, his enchanted gauntlet crackling with faint energy. Very well. You will not be executed. Marcus exhaled slightly, but he knew a caveat was coming. However, the king's expression grew sharp. You are not yet free. The court murmured in agreement. You claim to bring knowledge. If that is true, then you will prove your worth. From this moment forward, you are under my protection, but also my command. Marcus stiffened. They had just become royal assets. Serve my kingdom. Show me that you are worth more alive than dead. Fail to impress me, and I will ensure you never leave these halls again. He turned to the silver-haired woman. Lady Alara, you will watch over them. Ensure they do not cause trouble. She bowed. As you command, my king. Marcus glanced at his crew. They were alive, but their freedom had a price. He clenched his fists. This was just the beginning. The Voyager crew had been given quarters within the royal palace, though quarters was a generous term. The rooms were spacious, adorned with intricate tapestries and furnishings carved from dark wood, but they were also heavily guarded. Their freedom was an illusion. King Alden trusted them just enough to keep them alive, but not enough to let them walk freely through his kingdom. Marcus Cruz sat at a wooden table, his brow furrowed. Across from him, Ryan Cook was hunched over a disassembled datapad, muttering to himself. We need to figure out how we got here, Marcus said, his voice low but firm. Ryan grunted. That would be easier if I had my lab instead of medieval furniture. Mike Morgan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. And if we want to stay alive, we need to prove we're useful. Fast. Catelyn Morgan was in the corner, scanning their surroundings with her medical tablet, while Kevin Scott had a look of frustration as he scribbled notes on a parchment scroll, the only writing material available. Kevin finally sighed. Magic, the king, the guards, even the city itself, it all runs on something that we don't understand. Ryan rubbed his temple. I hate that word. It's not magic, it's an energy source, something science hasn't identified yet. Kevin tossed the scroll onto the table. You say that, but we saw a man levitate a boulder with his bare hands this morning. If that's just an energy source, why the hell haven't we discovered it back home? Marcus exhaled, rubbing his chin. We need to study it. If we can understand it, maybe we can use it ourselves. Or better yet, find a way to get home. Ryan tapped the Voyager's last functional scanner, the screen flickering from the damage sustained during the crash. We need a test subject. You have one. All heads turned toward the doorway. Standing there, arms crossed, was Lady Alara. Lady Alara was one of the king's most trusted advisors, but more than that, she was one of Velmara's most powerful mages. She had been watching them closely since their arrival, her keen silver eyes never missing a detail. She stepped into the room, the ornate silver runes on her robes glimmering faintly. You wish to study magic? Then you will learn under my guidance. But I warn you, magic is not for the unworthy. Ryan raised a brow. Unworthy? Alara narrowed her gaze. Magic is not something that can simply be learned. It is in our very being, woven into our essence from birth. You outsiders have none of it. Caitlin exchanged a glance with Kevin. Are you saying we're biologically incapable of using magic? Alara gave a slow nod. That is correct, Ryan scoffed. That's impossible. If magic is energy, we should be able to harness it. We just need the right conditions. Alara regarded him coldly. Then prove it. She lifted her hand, and suddenly, the air around them shifted. A soft blue light began swirling above her palm, forming a delicate sphere of energy. This is the simplest form of magic, a raw manifestation of mana. She stepped closer, standing before Ryan. If it is as you claim, if magic is merely energy, then take it. Ryan hesitated. Slowly, he reached out. The moment his fingers touched the sphere, a sharp jolt of pain shot up his arm. He gasped, jerking back as if burned. Alara's expression remained unmoved. Magic is not a tool. It is a force of nature, and nature does not bow to those who do not belong. Kevin cursed under his breath. So we're locked out? Just like that? Marcus was silent for a moment before speaking. There has to be a way. Alara studied them carefully before finally saying, "There is one way." The crew leaned forward. She continued, "You do not possess magic circuits, the pathways through which mana flows in the body. However, there is a method, though it is not meant for adults." Caitlin's medical instincts kicked in immediately. "You mean the method used for children born without magic?" Alara nodded. "A rare plant, Arcanis bloom, has been used for infants with dormant circuits. A drop a day for years can awaken their potential, but for adults, it is ineffective." Ryan clenched his fists. "There has to be another way. If this world has a biological mechanism for magic, we can force it to adapt." Caitlin's eyes flickered with a realization. "The body rejects the process because it's already fully developed. But what if we find a way to force the body to create new circuits?" Kevin, catching on, grinned. "We don't need to awaken something dormant. We need to create it from scratch." Alara's eyes narrowed. "You propose altering your very biology?" Caitlin met her gaze firmly. "I'm a doctor. Biology is something I understand better than anything. If there's even a chance that we can adapt to this world, I'm going to find it." Ryan smirked. "And I'll be your first test subject." Alara studied them for a long moment before finally speaking. "Then we will see if science truly has a place in the realm of magic." Over the next few days, Ryan, Caitlin, and Kevin worked tirelessly. Blood samples were taken, from the crew, from native magic users, from beastmen, even from Alara herself. Ryan ran energy readings, comparing human physiology to magic-using species. Caitlin studied mana flow, using her medical expertise to map out how circuits functioned in a living body. Then, they found something, a unique enzyme in magic users' blood. Caitlin's breath caught in her throat. "This is it. This is what allows magic to bond to the body." Ryan leaned in, staring at the data. "So if we introduce this enzyme into our system, it could act as a catalyst for creating magic circuits." Kevin exhaled. "That's an enormous risk. If this backfires, we could kill ourselves." Ryan smirked. "Or we could be the first humans to ever use magic." Alara folded her arms. "You would risk your lives for this knowledge?" Marcus answered for them. "If we want to survive here, we don't have a choice." Caitlin rolled up her sleeve, readying the first injection. "Then let's begin." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share with fellow sci-fi fans, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of the journey. Stay tuned for more adventures. Here is another video I know you will enjoy.